Welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Folse, and we did have a caller earlier who wanted to know about Hidalgo Drive. Hidalgo Drive is
high and dry as far as we know, Martin. Just got a call from dispatch, said there was been no complaints of flooding on Hidalgo. So.
Okay, so there you have it. So it's the communication line working up here. We continue to try to help people with their streets. Now, if we can go to a shot at the floodgate, and we have Wendell Currell. Wendell is on the phone with me as we're looking at the floodgate in Golden Meadow. And also, Wendell, you told me a little while ago that some rain was coming down. What area are you located at? Wendell, are you there?
Yes, we've had
Wendell, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, we're looking at a shot of the Golden Meadow floodgate right now. It looks like that is receded because of the tide, I imagine. But what about rainfall in your area right now?
Yeah. Well, again, the tide issue it's dropped. In fact, there's less water on the road than it's been there all day. We're just hoping that again we get this thing so the winds switch around to the west at least. That'll knock it down a lot. But our problem is that we have rainfall continuing to fall in the area, and we've closed both floodgates. We've got all our pumps working, and that's working out pretty well. We're holding on to the drainage in the back canal pretty good. But the big problem is the water trap between the two floodgates. We've got so much rain, and there's still some drainage from along the bayou ridges that drain into the bayou, and it's raised the elevation to about 1.6, and we don't allow it to get above 1 because it starts getting on the road at 1. So at 1.6, we have water kind of going across the road. Terrebonne and Golden Meadow, and on the Puerto Sauce side, there's 2 or 3 places that there's about an inch thick water going for a few feet, and that's causing a problem. Every time it rains, now we are siphoning some of that water out, and the water as it goes through those people's property at the back, it gets to the drainage canal, but it's keeping those yards full of water.
You say the water is sort of trapped in between the two floodgates, so I would imagine that the tricky part for you all is to decide how to alleviate that pressure, and really you got to wait on the conditions outside to improve to the point where you can relieve it.
That's exactly right. Well, in fact, it's not tricky. It's pretty simple. Right now, the water on the outside has been as high as 4.5 feet, where inside it's been like 1.3. We're keeping 3 feet of water outside of the system, so it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's 2.8 right now, and it's 1.7. So right now we're keeping 1 foot out. Whenever it equalizes and starts to drop outside, of course, we open and let the water out. But it's all dependent, like you say, on the tide. When the wind switch, if we can get them going to the west a little strong, have the rainfall flowing. We are taking some of the water out through our siphon system at 100,000 gallons per minute. But it's not keeping up with the amount of rainfall that every time it looks like we're going to get a little bit even. We get another shot of rain, and again, it raises the level of the bayou. But it shouldn't get very much higher than it is now, because now that as it gets in excess, it goes over to people's property, drains through their property, and then finally gets to the back drainage canal. So we don't think it's going to get too much worse in the bayou. But at this point, it's aggravating. I don't think it's causing anybody any water or any flooding in the houses themselves. But we are keeping a lot of water out. The system's working real good. Some people are calling, finding out, well, how much. Now that we have this high water all around us, we still have another 7-8 feet of clearance before any water would be from the outside getting into the system.
Now, let me ask
that's
you,
not an issue at all.
Let me ask you this, Wendell. Looks like y'all are in that really the last heavy medium feeder band that continues to put like medium rain, but just west of you in Homaterio, Dulac, Cogadry, Thibodaux, feeder bands seem to be lightening up. So there seems to be light at the end of the tunnel for everybody.
Yeah, and I tell you, if that storm would just go to the east rather than just due north, because if it stays due north, it's still going to induce a south wind, which is going to make it take longer for the tides, those exceptionally high tides to drop. If it goes to the east, the spin of the storm itself helps induce a north wind, which can drop that tide a lot faster.
Right.
So we're hoping that it goes quickly, sooner or later, to the east, so we can have open that floodgate. Once we open the floodgate, the pressure in the bayou starts to drop, and then everything gets right after that.
Well, I think you're gonna get half of your wish, because I think it looks like it's moving a little more northeasterly. So I think
But again, the more east it goes, the more helpful it's going to be.
yeah, so I think it looks like it has moved a little more northeast. So I agree with your scenario. It looks like eventually that rotation is going to be knocking water out instead of knocking water in.
Yeah, usually we get the storms coming from east to west.
Right.
And even though they head north, it still takes a long time for the tide to drop. But on the rare occasions when you have a storm going from west to east, because of the counterclockwise spin, it induces the north wind and it helps drop the tide a lot faster when you're falling tide.
Let me tell you, me and you have talked about this, and I've talked till I'm blue in the face with several people over many years about the fact that if one ever came in west of us, we'd be in trouble. But this is only proof with this low tropical storm, not even a hurricane, that if we get a 3, 4, or 5 west of us and it's a slow mover, I don't even want to think about it.
Well, look, you look at Ike and you look at Rita, okay? These were big storms moving very slow, and you had almost the same elevation of water on the coastline on the southern end as you did in the coastal. And you saw the kind of threats and problems we had. And those hit a good distance away from us. There is no doubt that we get a Category 3 storm, or even a strong Category 2 that stays there a long time. We're going to have some flooding on the upper parts of the system we had never thought about. Look, Hurricane Mitch, it stayed off of the coast of Nicaragua and Honduras for 4 days. A category, it vacillated between a Category 3 and a Category 5. Think about that.
Wow.
A Category 3 to 5 storm staying offshore for 3 or 4 days and pushing that type of water and wind. And in that case, they lost, I think, 10,000 people, but that was mostly rainfall going in there. Those are kind of mountainous coastlines, so they don't have a delta or the issues we would have. But it would be totally devastating. You get a powerful storm just hover off of our coastline, it would be unbelievable how bad it could be.
You know, the good thing about this, if there is a good thing, is that it didn't come up from the Yucatan, it didn't develop in the Central Gulf, and it didn't have time like a push barge to push water in front of it, so it didn't have a whole lot of surge. It had a minimal surge.
Well, and not only that, if it had been further offshore, it stalled right along the coastline where a large portion of the circular feeder bands would pass over the land.
Right.
We were very fortunate it was close to the coastline when it stalled. Had it been maybe another 100 miles further offshore, we could have seen Category 1, strong Category 1, and this whole scenario is a hell of a lot worse than what we have right now.
Yeah, and let me say this also. It looked like, Wendell, it was trying to get its act together all day today when it was offshore, and it was completing its rotation because they had winds wrapping completely around it.
Oh yeah. Well, again, you look at all the things that form a hurricane, and they kept talking about the dry air from the west that kept coming in and stopping it from intensifying. So. It's more than just hot water. There's a lot of different things have to happen for storms to intensify. The other big thing is that they need an upper level high pressure system to allow it to make a good symmetric circle and get strong. And they didn't have a good high above it. So there are 2 other features that help keep it from intensifying. But had it been further offshore and more on the water, even with negative, I think still a much more powerful storm and cause much more problems. All in all, as bad as it was, it could have been a lot worse.
And looking at it and really studying the rotation, I think I might be a little off in the northeast. Might be a north-northeast track instead of a northeast. So it's more of a. I agree with you. It needs to get more east. And
it would just solve the problems quick. Of course, the more inland it goes, the more it's gonna the winds are gonna decrease on the coastline, and the tide will start dropping. But we needed to drop fast. Number one, to get the water out quicker and let people get to work again. But the other big thing that we didn't talk about too much, all the rainfall that fell north of the intercoastal. All right, that's all going to be draining down.
Sure.
So the water at the coast has to leave first, and then the water in the bays, and as you get to the southern part of the area, south of the intercoastal, all that water has to leave before it can allow the water further north to leave. Well, that water's not going to leave right away, and then you're still going to have the drain water from the upper parts of the basin come down. So we should see increased water levels all along the intercoastal all through tomorrow at least.
Well, I agree with you totally in your scenario. You've been doing this for a long, long time, and we appreciate you joining us, Wendell, and keep us abreast of anything that might be happening.
All right, now let's just hope we get a little bit more of a break and get that thing going, get out of here so we can get back to work.
All right, once again, Wendell Currell, and we appreciate his expertise. And before we go to break, any updates, Kyle, for us?
No updates. Looked like the storm was moving northwest, actually.
It looks like a northeast track. We'll check it when we come back, but we'll do this. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have Councilman Alvin Tillman, who's just walked in, and he will give us an update also on some of his area. It's all next, our continuing coverage of Tropical Storm Lee.